Hey everybody, my name is John DePietro and welcome to this edition of the Camper Report Show.
And I'm Bob Zagami.
And Bob, we've got a jam-packed show tonight. First of all, we're going to lead off with all the leading news of the RV industry. And who are you going to be talking to?
I'm going to be talking to Toby, CEO of KOA, with a great little interview and an update on what she's been doing.
Right. And then I'm going to talk with Mike McNaught, who's the CEO and co-founder of RVezy, one of the up-and-coming peer-to-peer rental companies. All of that's coming up on tonight's, Bob, tell us the name of the show.
The Camper Report Show.
Stay with us. Hey, welcome back, everyone. And Bob, there's a lot of news in the RV industry this week, and let's tell our people about it.
Well, there is a lot of news. And do you want to start with the acquisitions, or do you want to start with the Wendland article?
Well, why don't we do this? Because you became a national celebrity this week. Because you were listed at this.
Wait,
well, okay. You've been a national celebrity, at least in your mind, for much, much longer than that.
Right.
But this week it was verified because you were on with Mike and Jennifer Wendland, who are our friends in the RV industry. They have a website called RVlifestyle.com, and they got together 24 of the top RV strategists and influencers in the entire United States, and were asked their views about 2021. And talk about what you think about RV shows for next year, because I know that was one of the things you talked about.
That's going to be a big issue. We're all watching the Tampa show to see if they're going to be live outdoors in January. But I think you're going to have to see in the early months probably some more cancellations, but they'll get going. I think right around the second quarter, I think you'll start to see the outdoor and the indoor shows come back. And they'll come back in a different format. They're never going to be, certainly not in 2021, they're not going to be everything that we expected them to be in the past. So they'll apply the CDC guidelines, but they will come back in 2021.
So are live shows any greater benefit to either the dealers, the consumers, or the manufacturers? Because, you know, the online stuff has gotten well accepted. Why would a live show be important?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I've talked to dealers all around the country, John, and they want to have the shows. They know that the people want to see and touch and feel, talk to their representatives, talk to the manufacturers, reps that are on site to explain how the manufacturing process is, offer special pricing from the manufacturers. They want to go back to the shows. Some have actually started to have small shows on their lot. La Mesa RV has a big show coming up outdoor in the arena in Phoenix. So you're gonna start to see a lot more outdoor shows as the weather gets better in 2021, but you're gonna see a lot of indoor shows too. Dealers want these shows.
Okay, so 2020 was a great year, it was a record-breaking year. Why is it important to keep the people in the camping fold that bought in 2020? What are the challenges ahead?
There's big challenges, but there's big opportunities. We've got a whole new demographic. We got new RVers coming into it. 26%. I mean, 50% of new orders are first-time buyers. So we have to make sure that we educate them the right way on operation of their vehicles. We have to make sure we teach them campground etiquette. The campgrounds have to treat them a little bit differently because it's an overwhelming burden on the campgrounds to get all of these new people who have never camped before. So the challenge in 2021 is to retain the people that we got in 2020, add to it in 2021 because the forecast indicate a record-breaking year next year with 507,000 new units. So this spike that we saw at the end of this year, or the last half of this year, is going to continue well into 2021. So managing the customer expectations becomes critical if we're going to retain these people in lifestyle.
So let's look at 2021. If sales continue to stay the way they are, or demand continues to stay the way it is, what about product availability? What is that going to mean for that?
It's getting better. The suppliers are catching up with their product availability into the OEM, so we have less of a backlog to the dealers. Indications are that by January 1st, most of the suppliers will be right up to speed on getting OEMs, manufacturers themselves, the products that they need. The pipeline is very good for all of the manufacturers, and that should be smoothing out. So as we come into the show season, which is always a big time for dealers to have excess inventory to meet the demand, I think we're going to see that and be pretty comfortable with the selection of products that they're going to have, both for the show experience, but also when they come back to the dealer's lots.
I think it's important to point out that one of the reasons there was a scarcity of RVs during the peak selling season or the peak buying season was that in March, all of the suppliers were shut down and all of the major manufacturers were shut down as well. This year, they're working during that time period, or should be working during that time period, to keep up with all of the product necessary to construct an RV.
That's true. Many of the manufacturers are hiring all the former people back and adding to their staff. And several just in the last 2 or 3 weeks have announced that they will be expanding some of their plants and building new plants. So they're gearing up for an absolutely incredible 2021.
Okay, so let's look specifically at the RV dealer story right now. There are 2 big stories that took place this week with major acquisitions. Tell us about those.
There was. Campers Inn RV acquired Forest Marine and RV in Tingsboro, Mass. And interesting enough, Campers Inn RV started in Acton, Mass, just 25 miles away from Forest Marine and RV. So they've kind of come back home in Massachusetts to acquire number 28. And they're the largest family-owned dealership in the country. So they have 28 locations in the country. Most are on the East Coast. They try to run up and down Route 95 to Florida. But then speaking about Florida, Lazy Days just announced today they filed for an IPO public offering, and Lazy Days is going public. And this is on the heels of closing the deal with Total Value RV and Elkhart. So anybody's been to Elkhart to visit the factories, they've probably gone by Total Value RV. That's a prime dealer out in that area. Once they do close, they're going to acquire camp land in Burns Harbor, Indiana. Now, when people go public, they tend to have an excess of cash. So I think we can look forward to Lazy Days doing more acquisitions in 2021. And I know from having spoken with Jeff Hirsch, the CEO of Campers Inn, they're not done acquiring.
They're not done.
The big challenge that we look for in 2021 is the difference between the big guys, the Camping World, the Campers Inn, the Lazy Days, the General RVs, RV retailers, those entities as large buying groups versus the small to medium dealers that have been out there for years and doing a very nice job serving people. And I could argue both ends of the equation. I could argue for a gigantic corporation. I could argue for the quality and service of a small mom and pop operation or a 2 or 3 location dealer.
And as your other capacity, in one of your other capacities as executive director of the New England RV Dealers Association, you really get to work with all different aspects of the size of the organization, from the small family-run businesses to the large family-run businesses to the corporately owned. So I guess you see them all.
It's a great opportunity to get very close to these dealers, but we have dealers that do $1 million a year. We have dealers that do billions of dollars a year. But we treat them all the same, and they all have the same requirements.
Yep, exactly. So as we round out this segment, we have some good news to report, and you want to tell us about Rollin' on TV. And they had a charity event giving away a Nobo. Now tell us about this Nobo. It's not just any Nobo trailer. Tell us specifically about that. And
it's still going on. So they're raffling off a customized Forest River Nobo travel trailer. It's an amazing, and we'll post a picture of it down below. Amazing unit, but they announced this week that they reached their goal of $40,000. And all of that money goes to care camps. But now we want to stretch it a little bit, and they've done so well. The challenge now is let's get them up to $50,000. So you still have time to buy a raffle ticket, and you could be camping. You could be the hottest camper in the campground next year if you roll in with this trailer, and we'll put all that information down below.
You could be rolling in from rolling on.
That's a good way.
That's a pretty good one. We'll have to use that. So the logo will be down below, the web address where you can contribute again, because we've talked extensively with people from the care camps, and they really do great things for kids all over the United States and Canada.
Yep.
So with that being said, we want to let you know that we've got much more of the Camper Report show coming up right after these very important messages. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I am delighted to have Toby O'Rourke, the CEO of KOA, with us. Probably one of the most respected leaders in our industry. Your company is amazing on providing information about our customers. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I can't imagine there's anybody out there, Toby, that doesn't know who you are. But tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role is and what you enjoy doing over there.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I always enjoy sitting down with you to catch up. For everyone who's watching who may not know me, my name is Toby O'Rourke, and I'm the president and CEO of Campgrounds of America. I've been with KOA 9.5 years now. Prior to being in executive leadership, I led our marketing organization. And before I came to KOA, my background was in marketing, specifically digital marketing and brand management. And I also have a technology background. I was a software developer for a time. So.
That's, it's really interesting because you bring so much talent to it. Let's kind of zero in on, because I want to be respectful of your time, but zero in on the KOA North American Camping Report that you've been doing now for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And I mentioned in last week's show that you willingly share that with everybody in the industry. So let's talk about the COVID update. But first, I'd be curious, because we have a consumer audience for this show. Why do you show it? Why do you share it with everybody? Which I think is fantastic, by the way. I think it's amazing.
Well, sure. We identified a need for there to be more understanding in the industry about campers. And we do a lot of data and research at KOA. We're very data driven. We saw gaps in our knowledge as well. So we started doing this research in 2014. We feel it's important to share with the broader industry because we're all about category growth. The more people into camping, the better it is for us, for other campgrounds, for RV manufacturers, RV dealers. And so if we can all collectively learn something from the data, we can continue to grow the category, which benefits everybody.
And that's a good point, because not only do you do the research on existing campers and RVs or the rental cabins, but you also focus on the tenters. And because the tenters, if we're realistic about this, the tenters are our future prospects. They may tent at a KOA this week and this year, and rent a cabin the next year, and buy a motorhome the year after that. So we want to get them into the lifestyle, make sure they enjoy it.
Right, absolutely. So we look at all camping, regardless if it's KOA or national park, private, public campers. So all camping, and with that is all types of camping. To your point, actually 60% of all campers are tenters. And so we want to understand a lot about tenters. Exactly to your point, that's an important part of our business. All KOAs have tenting and cabins and RVs, but it's also important for the RV industry to understand that that's a prospective buyer of an RV or renter of an RV. So we definitely try to understand everything we can about all types of campers, not just RVers.
Exactly. What surprised you the most, because you did an update in May, just as we started to roll into the pandemic, and now you just updated it, came out about a week ago. What surprised you the most, and what were some of the statistics that really showed up where we are?
Yeah, hands down, the thing that surprised me the most, it said that 20% of all people that camped this year were new to camping, had never camped before. And even furthermore, 26% of all campers this year had restarted camping. So they may have camped in the past, haven't done it recently, and restarted. So almost half of the people we saw in campgrounds this year were new or just coming back to it. And that's just phenomenal in thinking about the outlook for this activity in these businesses, in that all these new people coming in, trying camping, enjoying camping, and wanting to keep doing this as we go forward.
Well, and right along with that, kind of thought process. We've sold a lot of new RVs this year. We're projecting record sales next year. Our dealers are strapped in terms of getting people ready to pick up their RVs and trying to teach them something about it. But then we kind of turn them over to the campground industry, and we entrust them to you, but maybe we haven't done all the training that we should. So what are some of the added pressures, not only on KOA, but what have you found to be added pressures of all these new campers coming into the campground that do not understand campground etiquette, have not been there before, and in many cases don't know where to turn to get the education?
Yeah, I think that's a big opportunity for all of us, is to figure out how we better train and educate and help new campers. So that, I agree, it can come to the dealership level, can play a role on the campground side as well. So I know at KOA, we're taking this charge pretty seriously and coming up with lots of new ideas about how we can provide content to new campers to educate them about and help set expectations and help them along their way. That's why I always suggest new campers stay at a place like a KOA, because there's staff there that can help. You know, it's a pretty daunting to take a new RV out that you've never used before to a place with no staff. So we welcome new campers to KOA, and I know other private campgrounds do the same, because we are there to help and help educate. But you're agree, I think it's a big opportunity for the industry to embrace these new campers, help them, because that ensures they have a good stay and they're likely to continue doing this.
Yep. I'd like you to talk to the point that now we've seen so many people that have found out that they can work from home. They like it. Even their companies like it. For years, they fought it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't think it would work. They thought it would kill productivity. But all of a sudden, they found out, number one, we have the technology to do it, and the people are more productive. And then the families end of it, they say, well, wait a minute. If we're going to do homeschooling and we have to work and we've got an RV, why don't we do it in the campground? Are you seeing a lot of that? I know there's some in the study about that.
We are, and the study told us that 56% of campers felt that they would camp more because they are working from home or they're schooling from home. So we know people are extending their weekend stays, maybe 2 or 3 more days, because they're not tethered to an office or tethered to the school. Similarly, you know, I've been reading a lot of media reports about people renting RVs and traveling cross country and just living on the road while they work or school from home. So there's definitely a segment of the population that's doing that. I think that illustrates and underscores the need for really good Wi-Fi on campgrounds. And that's definitely an initiative we have in making sure our campgrounds can deliver really good Wi-Fi, because more and more people are going to be utilizing technology. You know, we're hearing from owners that people are calling right now and saying, can I Zoom? Will the Zoom work when I'm on your campground? And so we need to be able to meet that demand.
Yeah. You know, I thought one of the most exciting parts of the study was talking about the Gen X's and the millennials and the number of them that are coming into the lifestyle, but also expressing an interest in continuing. You know, we always think of people that have been camping for years and have been out there, but all of a sudden we have this opportunity to really build on a couple of segments of the marketplace that have untold growth potential. And you're seeing that in a lot of your studies, right?
We are. The largest segment of campers is millennials. That's been true for a couple years now, and really healthy numbers out of Gen X. In fact, when we asked people this fall if they were likely to purchase an RV as a result of the pandemic, Gen X was the largest segment of that group, followed closely behind by millennials. So definitely more younger people, more families are looking to camp and invest in RVs specifically. So huge growth potential. You know, Gen Z is falling right on the heels of millennials. We've been doing research with Gen Z for a few years now, and we know there's a lot of enthusiasm about camping and want to continue to camp as they develop families of their own. So I think the more you can introduce younger people, younger generations to camping, obviously that's going to have long-term reaching effects for the whole business.
All right, before I let you go back to the office, or maybe you're in the campground, I'm not sure. Talk about 2021 and the different types of accommodations that you have, because sometimes, you know, like you say, people are coming back to camping, or maybe they stopped at a KOA 20 years ago. They may not realize the all-encompassing arrangements that you have in the campground. So look ahead to 2021. hopefully we'll get past this pandemic. What are you looking at in terms of structure and where your revenue base is going to come with your amenities?
Well, we had a record year last year in 2019, and we're just shy of that right now. So, phenomenal comeback this year for camping. I think we're going to end right at our same levels as last year, which was a record, and we're projecting growth into 2021 because of all these new campers coming in. Now, there's the multitude of ways, rather, that people can stay with KOA, as you noted. So 85% of our business is in RVs. We've got a really robust and healthy accommodation segment, specifically in cabins, deluxe cabins, bathrooms, kitchens, all the comforts of home, if you will, or that you might find in a traditional hotel stay. But you have the outside, you have campfires, you have playgrounds, and so it's the best of both worlds. Glamping and unique accommodations has risen in popularity with KOA campgrounds over the past few years, and about a third of our system has some form of unique accommodation, whether that be a canvas tent or a teepee, or I'm trying to think of another one. Tree houses as an example. So that's definitely rising in popularity, and we're expanding that for sure.
That's fantastic. Toby, I want to thank you very much for spending a couple minutes with us today to tell us about the study, about the findings, and also about KOA. So we will catch up to you somewhere down the road.
Looking forward to it, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, and welcome back to this segment of the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro, and we've got a very interesting topic for this segment because of the fact that it's a topic that everybody's talking about. It's talking about either renting an RV to go somewhere or renting out your own RV to try to pick up some extra money for it, or at least to keep it active. And the person that we are going to be speaking with, his name is Mike McNaught, and Mike is one of the co-founders of a kind of new program called RVezy. And Mike, welcome to the show. All about you.
Excellent. Thanks. Thanks for having me, John.
So Mike, tell us a little bit about the history of your program. And I think it's important to point out that you are an active RVer yourself. So you're not just some venture capital guy that has read some financial headlines and said, I'm going to get into this RV rental thing. Talk about your own particular story, Mike.
Yeah. So my story is very interesting. I grew up here in Canada, and in my youth, always active in the outdoors. I was a Boy Scout growing up all the way to 18. I used to be a canoe guide in Northern Ontario, spending my summers in the outdoors. And, starting a family, wanted to kind of share that experience with the family, but unfortunately, my wife does not share the same backcountry camping that I like to do. So we ended up investing, and we purchased a Class A motorhome, and we loved it. We traveled everywhere with it. But then, the entrepreneur in me, I own a couple rental properties, and thought, well, rather than this sitting in the yard, there must be an opportunity for me to rent out this depreciating asset that's sitting in the driveway. Right. So I just I started on my own, started renting it out, and realized there was a pretty large opportunity. And at the time, I was a police officer, and noticed a lot of issues with how I was doing it. I had people sending me thousands of dollars over the internet, never met them before. I have no idea where they are. There's no insurance product in place, and just thought there has to be a better way of doing this, because people want to get outdoors and try RVing. It's expensive to rent them. It's expensive to buy them. Why can't I share my personal asset with others?
And that was a situation where this was prior to the pandemic, right? A couple of years ago?
Yeah, correct. This is back 2015, early 2016. And, I thought there had to be a better way of doing this, and doing the research, there didn't seem to be the Airbnb concept for RV rentals. At the time, I was a police officer, had 3 kids. I was finishing a university degree. There certainly wasn't any spare time to kind of look any further into it. Unfortunately, in the spring of 2016, I ended up getting in an altercation while policing. And as a result, ended up rupturing my bicep and my arm during the altercation and was off for 5 months. And, you know, I kind of seized that opportunity of having some time at home, and quickly started developing with my co-founder what's now RVezy, which is a peer-to-peer RV rental company where private owners can rent out their units to others looking to travel.
Okay, so basically, there are people that say, you know, we only use it 4 or 5 times a year, or 4 or 5, 6 weeks a year. And for 48 weeks, it sits, but I'm still going to make a payment. There must be a way that I can kind of rent out. I'm tired of giving it to the relatives who all expect it for free. And then RVezy comes around. Now, a couple of the questions that people have, myself included, is what about insurance? What about damage? What about renting to somebody that you know, is using it for the wrong purposes? How has your company solved these dilemmas that allow people to utilize their RV for cash influx without going astray?
No, it's a great question, and a question we get asked all the time. And I think one of the great benefits of how we've grown and built the company is that we started from an owner's perspective. Like we were already renting RVs prior to building the product. So I can feel all those same pain points. I had the same questions. My family, my wife had the same questions. What happens if somebody wrecks this thing? How can we ensure that it's going to be returned the same way it goes out? So a couple things we did. And number one, the experience is you're renting to good families. You know, 99% of the time, that RV is coming back exactly as it went out, if not in better condition. That being said, it's important to have the proper insurances. So we spent a lot of time building an industry first insurance product that makes sure that these things are fully insured during the rental period, because you run into very difficult issues with insurance, because the moment you accept any money for the rental, it turns into a commercial use. So our product is specifically built that will step up and take on that liability during the rental period only, and when you get it back, it goes back to your personal policy. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and you talk about, you know, who are these people that are renting the RV? So we go through a very good verification process. So the person has to have minimum driving experience, has to have a clean insurance claim record, have to have a clean driving record, and we verify their identity. So before that person even comes to see you, they've already been vetted, and we've ensured that they are the best possible people to rent your RV as possible.
So the police officer training in you has come out into this program as well.
It's been incredibly beneficial.
Yeah.
A lot of that, because again, like an RV is going to be most of the time your second most expensive asset you're going to buy outside of your house. Absolutely. It really is like the second most expensive asset. So yeah. How can you convince me to rent out my $100,000 motorhome that I love and cherish to somebody that I have no idea who they are? So it is so extremely important for us to build that trust with our users that if you rent it through us, number one, 99% of the time, everything goes as planned. But for that 1% of times when things do not go as planned, we want to make sure that we have that trust that we will take care of the owner and take care of their unit.
Okay. So now people have decided, well, you know what, let's give it a try because of the guarantees, if you will, that the company has put together based upon experience. Because like you said, you rented out your own to begin with. What kind of earning potential is possible, Mike?
That's a very great question. So the RV behind me, for those watching can see, that is my personal motorhome. And that motorhome makes about $30,000 to $35,000 a year. So you start thinking about it as from an owner's side, you can either rent it a couple times, offset some of the payments, or we've seen some very entrepreneurial people that see the value of owning a number of RVs. The initial cost to get in and purchase an RV versus the returns that you make is pretty significant. So it's been pretty incredible to see people start out renting their own personal RV and then expanding on that mini fleet and using it as a revenue stream. So a motorhome, easily you could be making over $30,000 a year, and the cost of ownership is a fraction of that.
Right. So basically, when you get into a situation that, okay, you've decided to make the move to rent it out, and now you know what the revenue is. What is the process if people were to go with RVezy? And we've got somewhere here, there's a link where people can click and then find out all the fine print, if you will. Tell me about the situation that how can people find out about your RV? Because it's a clearinghouse, if you will, where RVezy doesn't own the RVs. They're independently owned by individuals. How can somebody who's in California that wants to rent one in Florida, how do they go about finding your RV? Do you have to advertise it yourself, or is it something that you folks do?
So we definitely take care of advertising, right? So we drive a tremendous amount of traffic, and outside of COVID, we get a tremendous amount of international travelers that also want to come and explore North America in an RV. It's really like that bucket list item. So what we did is we built a renter and owner app. So anybody worldwide can access our app through the App Store, and they can search and communicate directly with owners in the locations that they're looking to go in. And what I find unique, and it's a beautiful part of the industry, is that you have a lot of people that want to try it out. They don't own an F-150. They don't feel confident driving. So it's pretty incredible to see the conversations that happen between our renters and owners, where somebody will pick a campsite or a location that they'd really like to travel and communicate directly with the owner and have the owner bring the unit to their location, set it up, and pick it up when they're done. So it really opens up the market of people that want to try out the industry. Is you don't need to own a big pickup truck. You don't have to have the confidence of driving a big vehicle. Pick the local campground that has all the amenities that you want, and talk with the owner. They'd be more than happy to drop it off and set it up for you.
Right. So basically, you're just using it as a hotel. You're not using it to get from place to place. And if you want to stay there for a week, you can do that. And it takes the fear out of driving something that could be rather intimidating to somebody looking at it for the first time. Is that pretty much correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And from an ownership perspective, you kind of mentioned it, is what happens if somebody damages my unit. Well, it takes away that entire apprehension of having somebody else tow your unit or drive your unit. You're the one transporting it, and you're the one setting it up. And of course, you can add a delivery fee. People are more than happy to pay for convenience. And you have the peace of mind that it's set up properly. People know how to use it, and you pick it up when they're done. It's right. A beautiful thing to see, and it's just going to make this industry grow larger and larger and larger and get more people outdoors.
Absolutely. So we should say that, we've shown your Class A, and I've got a Class C behind me that we use this summer. And, but we're also talking about travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, etc. Class Bs, the smaller ones, and also, the big luxury buses, if you will. So regardless of what your RV appetite is like, my guess is that you folks would be able to satisfy it.
Exactly. Everything from the pop-up tent trailer all the way to the big Class A motorhomes, there's everything in between. And really the use cases are endless. We see it year after year of, whether it's family reunions or going to a concert or just taking the family out for a vacation. Really, all options are available. And it's amazing to watch the people that start off and they just want to try it for a long weekend in a travel trailer, and then you see them come back the next year and do a 2-week cross-country vacation.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get a couple things straight here now. Number one, the average family uses their RV 4 to 6 weeks a year. It sits for the rest of the time. Number two, you've got revenue opportunities. Number three, all insurance and all the hassles, all the legal hassles are taken care of by you folks. And number four, the opportunity to deliver the RV to the campsite, if you will, where the renter wants to use it, takes a little of the fear away of somebody else driving your RV. Where can people go to do two things here? We got to do two things. Number one, you own an RV and you want to become part of your program. What do I do? And secondly, you want to rent an RV and you want to be part of your program. Do I go to the same place? Is it the same website? Tell me about that.
Yep, exact same way of accessing us. You can visit our website, RVezy.com, or search us on the App Store. If you're looking at listing your RV, I highly recommend you just sign up for the site, tell us that you have an RV, and then one of our owner success employees will give you a call and they'll answer any question you may have. They can provide you all the documentation or reading material, or just kind of really explain how it works. Because there's a lot of questions. You know, if you've never ventured down that road and you're even thinking about maybe exploring it, there's definitely questions that need to be answered, and we get on the phone with every single owner that we have to make sure they understand the process and what to expect when you're trying to rent your RV, because not everyone wants to rent it 20 weeks out of the year. They may only want to do it a weekend or two, just offset some of the costs.
And you do have the capability to put it in and out of the fleet whenever you want, right? It's not like you're locked in for a 6-month period or anything like that.
That's exactly it. So it doesn't cost anything either. Like, there's no upfront charge. The way we make our money is we have a service fee that occurs on both sides of the booking. And so then that's what we use to market, run the website, and provide that customer support. But it doesn't cost anything. You decide how much it's going to cost to rent your RV. You decide on the conditions of the rental and on what dates it's available. And ultimately, you decide who rents your RV. There's nothing wrong. Some people just don't get along. If you're not comfortable with the person that's interested in renting your RV, don't rent it to them. There's plenty of people out there that will be interested. So getting on the phone, talking with people, developing relationships has been by far the most successful way of going about renting it.
Right. So Michael McNaught, we want to thank you so much. We want to let people know that they can go to your website at no obligation whatsoever. We want to wish you well. And for those of you that are thinking of renting your RV out, or from the other side of the coin, if you're thinking of renting an RV because you want to try one before you buy one, this looks like the perfect opportunity. So that's our story on this week's The Camper Report Show. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on the show this week.
And if you like this show, hit that subscribe button down below. Down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little button that says subscribe. And then when that is done, there's a little bell that pops up. Hit the bell so that every time we have a new show, you'll be the first to see it.
And tell all your friends about it.